Bambu Lab A1 Mini totally flips the script on what makes up an entry-level 3D printer in terms of price and features, and also radically changes the user interface experience. When I got into 3D printing, entry-level printers were full of compromises. You needed to learn to tinker with them, to level the bed, to adjust belt tensions, to modify settings to get any print at all. I remember feeling so triumphant the first time I printed something bigger than a Benchy and had it come out the way I wanted it, without layer lines or axis shifting. But I also remember feeling like an idiot when I had a print failure, and there were a lot of print failures. Bambu Lab is known for bulletproof printers designed for upper-end 3D printing enthusiasts all the way up to commercial print farms. The P1 and the X1 series printers are designed around a technology called Core XY. Core XY simply means that the printhead moves forwards and backwards on rails while the print bed stays fixed and only moves up and down. More traditional printers move the print bed in conjunction with the printhead, and the printhead only moves from left to right while the print bed moves forwards and backwards. These printers are often referred to as bed slingers. There are a lot of advantages to the Core XY system, the most important being that the lack of movement of the print bed reduces the risks of the printed piece falling over. When Bambu Lab started to tease a new multicolor capable printer, 3D printing forums were filled with speculation about what it could be. Very few people guessed correctly that the company was about to drop a new printer that would upend the traditional entry-level printer market, a category Bambu Lab is calling a gateway to 3D printing, and that is a bed slinger. The A1 Mini has arrived, and it's so much more technologically advanced than other gateway printers. It's crazy. From the build quality to the touchscreen to the crazy looking but easy to use AMS multicolor filament system, and its super quiet printing thanks to active noise cancelling, the A1 Mini has blown my mind. But with a scaled down multi-filament system and their new recently launched online marketplace called MakerWorld, it's possible for people with no multicolor experience to print multicolor pieces in just a few clicks. Bambu Lab is clearly targeting the Prusa Mini Plus, the printer that's long been considered the best choice for people starting with 3D printing, thanks to its small size, clean interface, and excellent build quality. With the A1 Mini, Bambu Lab has not only fired a shot across Prusa's bow, they sunk its Benchy. Both printers have a small print bed size at 180 by 180 by 180 millimeters, which is a nice size for a person to get started with, but of course will be limiting for many types of prints. There are three important factors in any creative tool. All three of these factors are usually relative to similar products on the market. Fail at any one of them and the tool isn't worth the money. Excel at any one of them and you become the new standard. The first is the performance of the tool. If it doesn't do what you expect, that's game over. The second factor is quality. If it does what you expect it to do but breaks too soon, well, you just turned it into garbage, right? The third factor is ease of use. That third factor are the features and the usability of the tool. The A1 Mini excels in all of these category types. From a performance standpoint, it offers printing speed that's well ahead of the competition, and in my testing has proven to be as accurate as the P1S it sits next to in my lab, and faster than the Prusa Mini Plus by a wide margin. The quality of the build is impressive. Solid metal rails make the A1 Mini feel more industrial quality than other bed slinger printers. The Prusa Mini's single-arm design features two round dowel-like rails that can be accidentally twisted out of alignment. There is no flex in the arms of the A1. It looks a lot more like a hospital x-ray machine than a 3D printer. In the features and usability category, the A1 Mini hits it out of the park. Many of the features on this printer come from the much more expensive and much more industrial X1 series. Some of these features I don't even have on my P1S. These features are even more important, though, where they're applied to a target audience that's not familiar with manually setting up 3D printers. Anyone getting just the A1 without the AMS should be able to get up and running in about 20 minutes. The AMS setup took me about another 10 to 15 minutes to get it all working, so in total, about half an hour to get this up and running. One of my favorite things about Bambu's AMS system is that it can detect the resistance in the feeding of filament that's caused by a tangle on the spool, and the A1 Mini can also sense this. On my P1S, I've saved about a dozen prints so far when the system paused to let me adjust the filament. Bambu's own filament comes with RFID tags that automatically configure the printer for the type of color of the filament installed and can even keep a running total of the remaining filament on the spool. It also configures the prints so that the settings on the filament are automatically loaded into the slicer when you go to print. Speaking of filament, the AMS on the A1 Mini has spindles that are the right size for Bambu's filament spools and also for some of the companies that make spools with larger holes. Bambu's filament is fine, and users get a 6-month membership to their filament store that has pretty good prices. But there's cheaper and still great filament out there, so don't feel obligated to use Bambu's filament. You just have to make sure that you get a filament that has the right size hole. I'm also in love with the bright and clear display screen. It's a welcome change from the monochrome screen on the P1S. Compared to the Prusa Mini Plus, which has a well laid out interface, the A1 is like using a smartphone display versus the Nokia flip phone screen of the Prusa. To test the printer like a new customer might, I loaded up the filament into the AMS Lite, I launched the Bambu Handy app, The built-in Wi-Fi allowed me to easily connect to the printer and started to print right from my phone. Anyone with a Bambu Lab printer is familiar with the pre-flight testing that the bed goes through, and I suspect that some new users might worry that their printer isn't working when they don't see that the A1 is printing right away. I next selected the small toy, and it works surprisingly well. My son's gotten it to reach about 20 feet in the sky. Not bad for a couple cents of filament. Next, I printed this multicolored jointed panda bear. This is something you can't do on traditional printers, right? You can't do multicolor prints. With the A1 Mini, this was just a few clicks to start. After about 9 hours, I had this nice toy that I'll give to one of my friend's kids. I printed some of these multicolor New Republic credits, and those I colored myself in Bambu Studio. Again, multicolored prints with just a couple seconds of work. In fact, I think I'm going to start to use the A1 Mini instead of my P1 in some of my commercial prints because the automatic calibration and auto adjustments my P1S does not. The only negative to this printer is a necessary one for a multicolor printer that only has a single print head. The A1 Mini makes a lot of what people call poops. This is the waste from the 3D printed Panda. It weighs 124 grams. This is the Panda. It weighs 52 grams. That means that there's more than twice the amount of waste than there is prints. Using the Bambu Studio app, there are ways to reduce waste, like printing to infill and orienting pieces for fewer color changes. And if you print several of the same object at a time, you get the same amount of poop even for more pieces. It does seem like there should be some place the filament should go besides plopping onto the table, but at least it doesn't come out of the hard-to-reach back like the P1 and the X1 does. In operation, the A1 Mini is so quiet. The printer uses active motor noise cancellation, using the motor instead of a speaker to cancel out a lot of the printer noise. You need to switch to the silent mode to really get it as quiet as the 48 decibels advertised, but even in the standard printing mode, the printer is remarkably quiet. When the X1 and P1 shipped, a lot of people were critical of the reliance on the cloud to print files. There's still a lot of talk about how no one should ever trust a Chinese company with the model data sent to a printer, and about the built-in camera being a security risk. This makes sense in an industrial environment or a government environment where someone is printing custom parts, but it's less important when someone is printing a flexible panda bear. The company's other printers can be run completely separate from the cloud by printing over LAN or using a micro SD card, and the same is true with the A1 Mini. As an extra nod to privacy, the A1 Mini also ships with a little cover to put over the time-lapse camera. In a lot of the 3D printing forums, there's a lot of discussion about the A1 Mini versus the Prusa Mini Plus. These two printers are the main contenders in the battle for this gateway space. In most areas, the competition isn't even close. The A1 Mini outperforms and outclasses the Prusa Mini Plus in almost every meaningful category. The Mini Plus is $459 right now for the semi-assembled version. The A1 Mini is fully assembled, aside from the various tubes running from the AMS to the printer you have to set up, and including the AMS light system, it costs, that's strange, it also happens to cost $459. Without the AMS, it's about $250. When I first set up the Prusa Mini Plus that was partially assembled, it took me about 2 hours to go from start to finish. If you're interested in saving $30, you can buy a Prusa Mini Plus that the company says takes about 6 hours to assemble. The Mini Plus has no filament runout sensor at that price, while the A1 Mini has multiple filament sensors for runout, snapping, and tangles. The metal frame of the A1 Mini is vastly more solid than that of the Mini Plus. Wi-Fi is optional on the Mini Plus. Most people use Octoprint on a Raspberry Pi to run it, which adds to the cost of the system. You can also plug it directly into Ethernet, and of course you can use micro SD cards and SneakerNet. There's no camera on the Prusa Mini Plus and no way to remotely monitor the progress of the print visually without using something like Octoprint. Both the Mini Plus and the A1 Mini are reliable, at least in my testing of the A1 Mini so far. I have hundreds of hours on the Mini Plus, so I know that it keeps going and going and going, and I have no reason to think that the A1 Mini won't keep up. And the A1 Mini is so much faster. The heated bed on the Prusa Mini Plus goes up to 100 degrees Celsius, while the Bambu A1 Mini only goes up to 80 degrees Celsius. For the majority of users that are printing PLA and PETG, this isn't an issue, but it means that the Mini Plus is more appropriate for TPU or APS or other exotic filament. I don't want to bash on the Mini Plus too much. It is a tremendous printer. It's been one of the stalwarts of 3D printing, and up until the A1 Mini came around, it was the leader in this size of printer. I truly hope Prusa revises this product and makes it more competitive to the A1 Mini. The A1 Mini is a fascinating machine to me. I love when any technology comes along and redefines a product category. When Bambu released the P1 and X1 printers, the other manufacturers rushed to get faster yet affordable printers to the market, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do now that the A1 Mini has arrived. Are you in the market for a 3D printer and considering the A1 Mini? Let me know in the comments below if you have questions, and let me know your thoughts about this printer. If you'd like to see more of my honest real-world reviews, including my 3D printer reviews, you can click here, and to subscribe, you can click here or click down below. As always, for Dave Tries This, I'm David Schloss. Thanks so much for giving this a try.